Hello everyone. I recently painted this canvas for a baby's nursery and the mom wanted it to have just a very simple frame. So I went to the craft store where they had all their frames 60% off, and I was shocked to find out that it was going to cost $70 to have this framed. So instead I went to the hardware store in search of different wood trim that I could fashion a frame out of. So for $12 I'm going to put together the simplest canvas frame, and I thought I'd show you how. My canvas is 18 by 24, but because I'm going to cut the corners at an angle, at a 45-degree angle, I need to take that into account before I cut this. I'm going to be using a miter saw because it's quick and easy, but whenever working with the power tool, safety first. Eye protection, ear protection. Now, because I'm going to be making all of my cuts from this one piece of 8-foot trim, I can't afford to make any mistakes. And I need every bit of this piece of wood. So I'm going to make my very first 45-degree cut at the very beginning of this trim. Now also you'll notice that it's a corner piece, so it's not very stable when I go to cut it. So I've got a little trick here. I'm going to use this piece of 1x just to sort of secure it in place, make it a little safer. When cutting a 45-degree angle, it's always good to just pencil in. This is just to make sure that you don't cut it in the wrong direction. Now that I've got my mark, I'm going to set my miter to 45 degrees. Ready to make our first cut. So now I'm going to change the blade to the opposite 45 angle. Whenever you have two 45-degree corners coming together, you have to make sure that it's perfect, otherwise it won't sit right. So I'm going to use my speed square to make sure that this cut is perfect. This was my marker where it was 24 inches right here. So from there, that's 45 degrees. And you can see how off I was when I just eyeballed it. And we've all heard that expression when you're working with wood, measure twice, cut once. Well, that's exactly what I'm going to do right now, just to make sure that looks perfect. All right, I've got all my pieces cut. Now we're going to move into the shop and start putting this frame together. Before we move on to the next step, I just want to make sure that my cuts are going to work. So I brought out the canvas and I'm just laying everything out just to make sure that everything lines up perfectly. All we need is some good wood glue, some fine finish nails, and a hammer. Now, if you happen to have a nail gun, then these are great because it's going to make the project quicker and easier. Just make sure that you use a pin nailer because these shoot very fine pin-sized nails, and when you're working with thin wood, this makes sure that your wood doesn't crack. Now, I'm also going to be using one of these. This is a frame jig. You don't have to have one, but they ensure that your corners are perfectly square, and they also come in really handy when you're working alone. Put a little bit of glue on each piece. You don't have to put too much, a little goes a long way. Here's where our friend the jig comes in handy. And now I'm going to nail this. And I've always found that when you're working with the pin nailer, if you shoot it at an angle, it just gives you a stronger hold. Perfect. Now on to the next piece. All right, now that it's all put together, I'm just going to let it sit for a while and let the glue dry. Meantime, I'm going to sand the corners off a bit, get rid of some of the excess glue and pencil lines. Use some wood putty on the nail holes, but for the most part this is done. At this point you can decide if you want to paint it, if you want to leave it as unfinished wood, or you can do what I'm going to do, which is stain it. Well, now that it's dry, I'm just going to flip it over and pop in the canvas. Fits perfectly. And I like it already, but let's see what it looks like hanging on a wall. Well, this isn't its permanent home because, like I said, it's going in someone else's baby nursery, but this gives you a general idea. And I think it turned out pretty great, especially when you consider how much money I saved by making it myself. I hope you found this video tutorial helpful. Be sure to click the subscribe button, and you can check out my other blog entries at Murals by Marcy on Facebook and muralsbymarcy.com. Thanks for watching.